Hey guys, how you doing? This is JP Saricolia coming to you once again with another episode of Age of Heroes, my podcast. Happy Friday. I hope you have a good start of the weekend and you're ready for a lot of things. Of course, on Easter, definitely, I love Easter. Is one of my favorite holidays as a kid. When I was a kid, I go to church, spend time with the family, and I love it. I hope you also have that. If if you're the type of person that goes to church, you're a Christian. If you're not, then, by all means, also, I wish you the best because, the weekend is always a great time for all of us, whether you're a Christian or Muslim or whether you're agnostic, whether you're, whatever religion you share, we all love the weekends. I think it's something that we enjoy. The time after a long week, after a lot of work, a lot of stuff in our lives, and a lot of pressures, be able to find time just to spend time with the family. I know some of you might have to work on the weekends, it happens. We all have to go through those processes. I do too. So, but in any case, let's get into it. Let's get into today's podcast. I want to thank all of you, every person that tunes into the podcast every week. Thank you very much for your support. You watch the videos on YouTube. Thank you again. All of you are important to me, and I really appreciate all your support. So thank you very much. Now let's get into it. Talking about, if you have noticed this week, I've talked about a lot of things. We talk about gaming and all kind of stuff. But I want to move from gaming into something else, which is movies, which is another part of my channel that I really, really enjoy, a part of my podcast. And of course, if you haven't checked my review of Hellboy, I recommend you to do so. I'll have the link for you. Definitely, it's a lot to say. It was a long review in comparison to other reviews, because I really had a lot of invested interest into this movie. And unfortunately, it didn't work out the way I wanted to work out. It didn't pan out the way I wanted to work out. And if you want to know more about it, of course, check my review, and then I'll go in detail about every single matter of everything that I care, and also everything that I didn't care, which is a long list of things. And, I'll go in detail about it. I try on my reviews to be as clear as possible, but also as objective about it. Because, sometimes we can let our emotions lead us astray, and definitely we do it all the time. We let our emotions guide us through the process. And I see so many reviewers that they jump into reviewing something, they let their emotions, they speak without really knowledge of the matter or the subject. They just base it on a single opinion. Now, with comic book superhero stories, and especially in movies, you can not only see it as a moviegoer. Of course, there's gonna be people that only care about the movies are gonna see it as a moviegoer, and their opinion is gonna be based as in anything that has to do with Hollywood, cinematography. Now, you have comic book fans, and they're going to base it on their comic book experience. And there have people that they are both, and they're going to experience, share it based on both. It's going to be a mix of both. Now, I'm in that camp. My experience is based on both. In the cinematography, which I'm a big fan, I'm a big movie file. And also it's going to be based on my comic book experience, which I'm a big comic book fan. I'm a geek in that department. So, going through the movie, I realized something that was very important. As I mentioned in my review, one thing I can be grateful for the studio is to trying to put so much information on trying to be as close as possible to the source material. We love that. I think that's in the perfect world, that's what we would like to see. A pretty much an interpretation, 100% accurate of the comic book story into this film. However, in the reality of things, in the reality of the world, it is impossible to be 100% accurate. And if whoever is preaching for 100% accuracy is really, really preaching for disaster, because it's not going to happen. And when the attempt is done, it always comes with, really bad consequences. The result is never to anyone's liking. It's going to be not effective. It's not effective because you have to keep in mind, movies normally have a time frame of an hour, 45 minutes to 2 hours, up to 3 hours, like we're going to see in the upcoming Avengers movie. So if you're planning to go and watch it, I recommend you do not drink liquids before the movie because you're going to have a big problem in the movie theater if you don't want to miss a minute. So definitely prepare yourself mentally, physically, so you don't have to worry, hey, I need to go to the bathroom every hour, like I know in my case, I can hold it, but my wife, she's probably going to have to go once or twice, that's how it is, how women are, I'm not saying trying to be sexist here, but women, how women are. and a married man, and if you have a girlfriend, you know what I'm talking about. So definitely it's something that we have to deal with, and it is hard to put all of these movies, all this information, and cram it into one single movie and expect for this movie to be good. It's going to have a lot of information, it's going to have a lot of Easter eggs, it's going to have a lot of visual references to the source material and narrative, but it's going to be boring, it's going to be too long, and it's going to drag, or it's going to be very disjointed, because they are two different types of storytelling. And you have to be able to adapt the book, or in this case the source material, into the film and to make it as enticing, because there's so much information that you can provide in the book, in the comic book stories and the novels, that unfortunately you cannot provide. You have to be more visual about it in the movies. And I think that's the part of it I felt that Hellboy really missed the mark, because it tried to give you so much information, sometimes even the characters giving you some hints of some stuff that wasn't necessary and was not really part of the story. It was not really important to what was the main plot of the story. You get so many different subplots, and they mentioned so many subplots that really didn't have to be there. That only took time and took away from the experience of enjoying the film for what it was. And I feel that that's something that I want to talk about today. Is it that important to make everything so comic book accurate to the source material that we are failing to see the importance of really making good movies that are enticing for moviegoers? I feel that there's a big disconnect. Now, a lot of times people, this week I've been watching a lot of MCU movies. I still had a couple of movies to review, so stay tuned between this weekend and next week. Before Avengers Endgame, I'm going to have pretty much the last 4 movies of the MCU that I need to review. I was going through all of them, and I love them. I love those movies. I think the recent movies are great. What I like about Marvel is the fact that they are not simply transferring what happened in the comic book stories into the big screen. They are taking inspiration from it, and they are developing an entire new universe. And that's what makes this movie so great. Because, I know sometimes you're going to have the purists that are going to complain about it. Say, well, this is not that happened. I watched Thor Ragnarok last night, and I loved Thor Ragnarok. I can tell you one thing. I love that film. In my opinion, it's the best Thor Ragnarok exists. And I will expand that when I get to review it. It's the best Thor movie so far. Because they try so much to stay on the first one, to stray through to the first, in this case, to the story, to the main core story. And it was good. It was entertaining for what it was. It was no groundbreaking. It was something already kind of played out. Now, the second one, they try to go back into the mythology of it and get more in detail with it, and it kind of didn't work out as good. It's a more serious matter, and I have those reviews. I already reviewed those films. The third one was a totally different deviation, took a lot of inspiration from some of the great stories where Thor has been part of, and like in this case, the Ragnarok and some other things, the battles with Hela and all that kind of stuff. And mix it up in a way that was enticing. It was different, unexpected in many ways. And of course, some people didn't like the way Ragnarok was handled, but I found it so clever because it really played well with the character, with the person that plays, in this case, Thor, but also with the story that they have developed, and it works well within the frame of the MCU's universe, within the frame of what they're trying to accomplish with their movies. And I found it to be interesting and very clever. You have to keep in mind, those movies are, in this case, they work totally separate from what everything has been done, in the past with comics. You cannot try to compare it and say, well, try to be comparisons. There's going to be comparisons, but in my mind, as long as they stay true to the core elements that make these characters great, like in this case, Thor's personality and the way, he is as a person, and definitely he has the core elements that make Thor great. So whatever you do around it, you can play around it and change some of the I would say, the story elements or the events that happen. And still, you're going to have the same character, the same Thor that I know from the comics. Same with Captain America. You can change the parts of the events that are happening around his life, but he's still at the core and the basic fundamentals of who he is. He's still Captain America through and through. And that's what really matters. And, that's what we need to do. Now, what I found with this Hellboy movie is that, the character, it was true to the character, but some of the characters around him were not true to the characters in the comics. So that throws some things off, first of all. And second, second of all, the events became so became the center, not the character. And that's the part where I feel the original Hellboy movies were so great, because the center was Hellboy. Hellboy was the center of everything. Here, it's like he wanted to be the center, but ultimately he was not the center, and his thoughts and his process. No, it was the events. And I feel that was something that was a miss call from the creators, from the script writers. They didn't pan it well. So the reality is this. I feel that sometimes in the pursuit of trying to be so accurate, and a lot of fans want accuracy 100%, but they don't see the effects that he has, because a lot of people were claiming for accuracy. They wanted accuracy. Ultimately, the product that was delivered was not to the standards that I would assume. Of course, some people some people love it, some people care about it, but it's not a time changer. It's not something that will be remembered for posterity as some of the greatest works for Hellboy. They're still gonna remember Hellboy 1 and even Hellboy 2 above this Hellboy, and it's sad because this Hellboy tried to add as much and it respected the source material, although in some ways it didn't, because it kind of was like in this case a washed out version of the book. They tried to get so much into it, but at the same time it was washed out. And I feel that was, again, there was a miscall, because they could have just simply go for the basics of the story and just work with it, and develop a new story around it, and took away a lot of this, pretty much all this extra weight that they trying to add that really didn't lead to anywhere. And think that's the part. I personally believe that I love movies that are different. Sometimes I wonder, even that happens with Star Wars. I see fans that they want change, they want something new, but they want things to stick the same, and they want everything to be accurate, and that's what they call it, to what the originals were. And life is not like that. Sometimes you have to change things around, to move the stuff around. No character might be permanent in the way it feels or sees things. And things change. We change. We all change. Our ideas change. My ideas have changed. If I look back 5 years, 10 years ago, my opinions were different than my opinions today. My opinions are maybe more broader and open than before, but also in other areas I'm more stiff in my opinions than before. So, we all change, and I feel that movies, in order for them to be successful, they have to be developed in a way. I talk about it in a previous podcast when I talk about, in this case, translations versus adaptation, and I was talking primarily on, in this case, the Avengers Endgame, and a lot of people were complaining about some of that. I do believe that there are two separate universes, and I love the book, but I'm going to love the movie, and I think it's going to work out well. We'll see. Also, we have to review it and to really come to that conclusion in the end. But I don't see why not so far, because so far the MCU has not disappointed me, disappoint me in that way. But I feel that with this, with movies, you want to give as much reference as possible, but you don't want to make it so heavy with the references that you lose sight of what really matters and what is important, for the story, for the whole story. Definitely, I love what, the MCU is doing. I love when, what DC is trying to do. Still, we have to determine more in pretty much in the years to come with more movies that they're planning to do. So I'm liking that. I'm liking what even Disney Plus is doing, what everything that is coming with The Mandalorian, all the plans they have for the MC, for in this case, for Marvel, but also for Star Wars and the streaming service. And I love what the stories that, Netflix is doing. Those are great stories, stories that add up. Like, I need to review The Umbrella Academy. I've been planning to do it, so stay tuned for that too. I love The Umbrella Academy. I read the books, and I can tell you one thing: the movie goes in a different direction, although it bases on the story, but it goes adds more stuff, enriches the book even more. I can tell you one thing: I prefer the series to the book, and that's something new to me, because most of the time I prefer the book over the movie or the TV series. But in this case, I can tell you one thing: I prefer the series over the book, because it enriches the book and it goes in different directions that the book didn't go. And that's what I would have hoped for Hellboy at the same time. For them to go in a new direction, to add new things to the story that really make it more enticing to really go back to the source material and read it and make the comparisons, but not finding just trying to make it, a copycat, because technically the movie is just a watered down version of the book. It's all it is. And it's nothing new. Thor Ragnarok is technically some people say it's a watered out version, but no, it's a totally different version with the same name, but it's a version that is totally new and different and something that is unexpected. And I love that part. And I love all the stuff that they have done, even with Black Panther. I love the way they did it. It is based on pretty much in jungle action stuff, on Panther's Rage, but it's not Panther's Rage. It's a totally different thing. And I like that. I like when movies are like that. So, that's my opinion. Of course, it might be a bit controversial for some, but I feel that that's the right approach in movie making, particularly when it comes about superhero stories or when everything is taken from a novel into a book. I think that you have to respect the source material, but at the same time, you have to give some room for the movie, for the story itself to breathe. But what is your opinion? I would like to hear it. Definitely, it's a lot to talk about it. I know I don't know everything. I just expressing my opinion based on my personal experience, but I would like to hear yours. So once again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you're reminded of the next video. Also, you're listening to the podcast. Please share the podcast on social media. All the links are down below. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, my Facebook page, and please also consider supporting me financially. Your financial support keeps me in the air, so I'm able to produce more content, more reviews, and of course, talk to you on a daily basis. So once again, God bless you. Take care. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.